Welcome to Free Discourse Radio. My name is Frank Davey. So we're going to do a exchange that recently really angered me regarding the attack that happened at Finsbury Mosque, where a gentleman, or well, not a gentleman, a crazy motherfucker, drove a car into a group of congregants, Muslim congregants that were coming out of a mosque after a service, and it's pretty abysmal. One person died, and many were injured in this attack. And there was a discussion that happened after between on Piers Morgan, Good Morning Britain, I think it's called, the show. Yeah, Good Morning Britain. They had Tommy Robinson on, and they went to discuss some of the things that Tommy Robinson has been promoting on his Twitter page. So we are going to begin.
Right, 6:38. Laura, thanks very much indeed. The former leader of the English Defence League, Tommy Robinson, has caused fury after accusing the Finsbury Park Mosque of creating terrorists.
After a terror attack last night, he tweeted, "The mosque where the attack happened tonight has a long history of creating terrorists and radical jihadists and promoting hate and segregation."
And he joins us now. Tommy Robinson, thanks very much for coming in this morning. You followed up that particular tweet with another one. Finsbury Park Mosque was a UK government-protected planning centre for hundreds of jihad attacks, plots which killed British soldiers and children. The fact of the matter is, Finsbury Park Mosque is a pioneering mosque doing all sorts of great community work. By implying that it's somehow involved in terrorism is actually whipping up a feeling which is not helpful, considering what happened yesterday.
When you say that, all I've done was repeat what newspapers across our country have said. Those were facts. The facts are they did create terrorists. It was a hotbed for jihadists. That's a fact. That's all I've done, was give the history, and that's from many of the newspapers, one of the newspapers you work for, Piers. So it's not me saying it.
You can't innocently stand back and say, putting something so provocative out there, a historical piece of information about a mosque which is now absolutely at the forefront of counter-extremism, winning awards for the good work that it's doing on integration. You can't stand back and say, I'm putting out this rather inflammatory tweet and piece of historical information and say, oh, but all I'm doing is just stating facts.
I'm stating facts. Do you know who Mohammed...
What's the purpose of putting that out
if
there?
you read in context with the rest of the tweets, the rest of my tweets, that's not in context. There was a whole flurry of tweets where I was saying how I condemn the attack as barbaric, as wrong. Do you know...
Yeah, all right. So the disingenuous right from the start, these guys. And that is true. Tommy Robinson always says that these things are bad and that he doesn't think it's justified to attack Muslims and blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know how many times he has to say it before people will stop asking him if he's an Islamophobe. You know, he's really just pointing out the facts. And, it apparently has been a while since this Finsbury Mosque has supported extremism. And apparently they have a very dark history. I believe Abu Hamza was somebody that attended that mosque and was able to speak there. And we all know why that's bad. And But what Tom Robinson is bringing to the table is something that, the Daily Mail has covered over and over again. And we have a situation where there's a trend coming from these groups that they come out and they allow speakers to indoctrinate kids. They preach hatred towards Jews. They preach. They're saying that they shouldn't associate with regular British nationals who are not Muslim. We should not be friends. Just if you go on YouTube and you search for the videos of people going in mosques. Now, I'm not trying to say that every single mosque service is a hate speech fest. No, I'm not saying that. But the fact of the matter is that that he is pointing out a specific trend. And yes, Finsbury Mosque has. I don't know whether or not they're the bastion of anti-Islamic extremism in Britain. That to me sounds like BS, because the moment this attack happened, where this guy ran over this lunatic ran over a bunch of innocent people, the Islamic Council for Affairs or something like that, whatever it's called in Britain, check me on that. Immediately came out and said on the BBC that we condemn all these that we condemn the rising Islamophobia that's spreading across the country. It says there, but they will not come out when an Islamic extremist attack happens and say, listen, we know that there's a trend of this stuff happening in our communities, and we are going to do whatever we can and work with the police to help them to help us curb this and eradicate this from our community. They won't come out and say that at all, and not in the least bit. But before we even have any information, like this is before the BBC had any details that this council came out and said, "Oh yeah, we condemn the Islamophobic attitudes that are happening." Says something along those lines, like before we even knew who it was. Now I may be mistaken. Maybe they knew something the BBC didn't at the time, but I find that hard to believe. But they waste no time to come out. Is the point? Yet when an attack happens from somebody in their community, that a multiple attack, not an attack. This is like, it's not just attacks, actually. What am I talking about here? Like, there is no room for the benefit of the doubt anymore. Like, there are grooming gangs that are happening. There are ghettos all over the place. I've said this in all my videos. There are no-go zones. Kids are getting prostituted by these gangs, and the cops aren't doing anything about it. They're too afraid to do anything about it. They go and they preach in the streets that some of them preach in the streets that UK soldiers should be killed, and they preach against the British government and against Western democracy and all of our values. They have no respect. Like, a lot of them don't have respect for our values, and we shouldn't stand for that because they are the country that opened their arms to refugees and to people that needed help, and they come here and they continue as they were in their previous countries without any sort of. In many, just take a look for yourself. Look in France, look in Germany, look in Britain. Has some of the video that people have caught of them getting harassed by people who don't want women around or don't think that women should be out and going to bars. And look it up. This is happening, and we are going to continue here.
Lies.
No, I'm sure you're about to tell us.
Well, he's a trustee at the mosque. He signed the Istanbul Declaration, which called for... He's the trustee now at the pioneering mosque. He called for British troops to be killed. He signed the Istanbul Declaration. He was also a mastermind for the military campaign for a terrorist organisation, Hamas. So, and when you talk about a pioneering... Do you know who had...
I mean, that's pretty serious, I think, She's just going, like that's pretty serious, all right? Hamas? Like, are you kidding? Like, they're a terrorist organization. And a lot of that support, there's a lot of support for that in among Muslims in Britain there and other places. Come on.
Unfortunately,
do you know who?
So you can cast out all sorts of criticisms and aspersions on these people. We don't have them on the programme for a right of reply.
Oh my God. Oh, that is the audacity to even say that we should give a platform to terrorists to defend themselves. Wow. Holy mackerel.
Okay, well, what I'm telling you is that hate preachers are still speaking at that mosque. Muslim Brotherhood...
Which mosque?
At the Finsbury Park Mosque.
That's not where the attack was.
No, but no, you're talking. You've come on and you're talking to me about the Finsbury Park Mosque.
Yeah, but let me put it another. Hang on. Here's my point. So, here's my point. Right, I've read a lot of stuff that you've said and done. I know your history. I know all of it. Good, bad, and ugly. Some of it's...
I don't know if this bothers you, but when there's an interview going on and they're in the middle of a talk, and then one of the commentators just stops it. Oh, wait. I've been reading into you, and you say a lot of things that are pretty ugly and blah blah blah. I hate that. Stay on the topic. Continue the discussion.
Some of it I agree with. Right. My issue with what you did yesterday was that within 1 hour of this utter lunacy, this terrorist driving from Wales and deliberately mowing down innocent people, as it turned out, all Muslims. Outside the Muslim wealth. As
if that would be something that we would be shocked to hear. Of course we care just as much because it was Muslims. But the fact... I'm going to get into a really hard truth in a minute after this video ends here.
Their house, not the Finsbury Park Mosque. Killing one, maiming maybe 10 others. Is that your first thought process was not to express sympathy for what had happened. No, hang on. I read the tweets in sequential order, right? But within 1 hour, your thought process was to go on the attack, to talk about another mosque, not the one that had been attacked, to talk about it in historical context of when everyone knows that Finsbury Park Mosque at the turn of the century was a bad place with Abu Hams and everything else, right? And what you were doing was fomenting hatred and almost suggesting...
It's such a cop-out. Oh, my God. Piers Morgan, sometimes he comes across as having a spine, but really, really, he'll do whatever's appears. He got in a little trouble recently for the comments he made about the Manchester attack, which I thought, and I was, for the most part, I was on his side with that. He just simply called out, mostly much like what Tommy Robinson's doing here. And then he just takes a complete shift, and then he goes and shits on Tommy Robinson for him. And Tommy Robinson is somebody who's actually out in the street doing this stuff. He's actually in the most dangerous parts of these ghettos, approaching people. He's getting arrested, he's getting punched, he's getting, I like to see Piers Morgan do that, and not trying to say I know that not everybody can be out there, but we all have a role to play, I suppose. But that role shouldn't be to stand in the way of stopping Islamic terrorism. I don't know if history is really going to be kind to these guys, these people. So I don't know if they realize that.
Somehow, this attack, this revenge attack, as you put it, was in somehow deserving because of the historical behaviour of certain people at a completely different mosque. Okay, that was my problem.
Okay, Piers. The newspaper you work for said exactly the same within an hour. Abu Hamza's mosque. Were they fomenting hate, that newspaper you work for? Were they? Were they inciting hate?
Well, I don't
No, please. I don't run the Daily Mail.
Okay, but you've just said I was.
Oh, another cop out there. Oh, man. Well, so Piers doesn't and of course he goes silent when he's like, "You're going to condemn the Daily Mail for saying the same thing?" No, only the people that get their hands dirty will and go on and actually say the quote unquote inflammatory things in order to get people to actually pay attention to an issue that's spiraling out of control.
The newspaper you work for who said exactly the same within an hour.
I have no responsibility for the Daily Mail. I write columns for the Daily Mail. Okay. I'm not asking you about the Daily Mail.
Okay, can I explain?
I'm asking you just to simply explain why, within 1 hour of this terrorist attack, your first thought process was to go on the attack about another mosque and to point out to people that it was basically a terror hotbed of jihadis, with the clear implication that somehow what happened that night was a deserved revenge attack.
Not deserved.
Oh, all right, yeah, this is where he's the most wrong. Tommy Robinson was not saying that this is deserving. I will defend him on this, to the end. He's not at all. I condemn the fact that he even says that about Tommy Robinson. I think he knows better, Piers, that he's not saying that. He had similar sentiments himself for crying out loud after Manchester. But then he bounced it back after he got public hate for it because he wants to protect his image. Everyone is concerned with their image. It's crazy. I mean, they're going to lose their country because of this. They're going to have to pay the price. I hope America doesn't fall to that either. Maybe we already are. I don't know. But I want to point out here that there is a serious situation, a serious truth that needs to be considered, and it's ugly. It's an ugly truth, and I'll go on the limb to say that these attacks that are happening both to Muslims and by right-wing extremists or whoever the heck they are, anti-Islamophobic or something like that, is the right-wing response that people have been warning about to inaction by the government to deal with radical Islamic terrorism. And this is not the Muslims' people's fault. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that this you put yourself in this guy's shoes, all right? This psychopath, his shoes. Put yourself in his shoes. Maybe he probably saw all the plights and all the gangs, the grooming gangs, and the hate speech coming out of these mosques, preaching against Jews and against the harassment of women, harassment of people. The people like that are going to see, and they're going to see the police running away from it. And they're so tapped in the head, they're going to go and take it upon themselves because they think that all Muslims are part of this. Now, that's abysmally wrong, and it should be condemned the same way that radical Islamic terrorists are condemned. And the point that Tommy Robinson is trying to make here is that the media will not come out and say that radical Islamic terrorism is a problem and is festering in many communities. And it's the reason why we're seeing a crapload of more attacks, because we've taken in so many immigrants, and we failed to assimilate them. We failed to give them jobs. We failed to even get them to learn the language. And they're coming here and they're continuing as they were before. We have to understand that they come from different value systems. Not every Muslim is bad. Not every Muslim, and many Muslims even see this. Like, go to this page, the Sikh Awareness Society, I think it's called. You have a Sikh, whatever their equivalent to an imam is, but people who are in the Sikh religion speaking out against the grooming gangs and the sexual violence on women. And also there's a imam coming out of Australia, I forget his name, I'll put it in the description, to follow his channel. He's also coming out and speaking out against. He's an imam, and he recognizes that this is happening. All right, like there are Muslims that are coming out in the forefront independently because their main bodies of their main bodies of thought and of governance are not coming out and saying the same thing. So people are taking it upon themselves to do it. And Tommy Robinson, just because he's white and a British guy, he's considered to be the Islamophobe. They won't dare say that to the Sikhs and to the other imams that are coming out calling them Islamophobes, even though they're saying the same thing, and they have an inside scoop of what's going on. And like there are many people that do feel this way, you know, and there are many average people who are living beside all this, that are feeling the same way as well. There are people that are afraid, even here in America, that don't want to send their kids to concerts anymore because this stuff is happening, and as well as that too, Muslims themselves have to suffer the consequences when crazy motherfuckers like this guy who got in a van and ran over a bunch of people coming out of their church. Like honestly, this goes back to the inaction of the government and the inaction of the media to question and do their jobs properly. And Tommy Robinson is just simply pointing out these facts. Yes, Finsbury Mosque may not be the same way anymore as it was. It might be, though. Tommy Robinson seems to think that it is. And I'm not sure about the Finsbury Mosque as far as I can tell, but the people that were coming out of there did not deserve to be attacked the way they were. But it's just people need to understand that this is happening because there's inaction in dealing with radical Islamic terrorism. There is no syndicate that's focusing, that's organizing people and organizing them to attack Muslims. There's no syndicate group that comes to that. English Defense League isn't one of those people. Isn't a syndicate that's anti-Islam. They're a group that's worried about the national security of their country when they're watching the police do nothing when it comes to gang violence and gang activity festering among the Islamic population of their countries. There are crazy social issues, there are massive economic issues, and there are massive assimilation issues. This is a recipe for disaster. And the fact that they don't want to even admit it on air, because they're so afraid they're going to get called Islamophobic, they're so afraid that their image is going to be sacrificed, that they were willing to sacrifice their integrity and be disingenuous on air and tell everyone to their face that there's not a problem. This is ridiculous, and this is the type of thing that Tommy Robinson and the likes like him, there are a lot of people doing what he's doing. Lauren Southern, both from the Rebel Media, good station, and among a lot of other people that are pointing this out and are facing controversy and facing threats and facing labels and those sorts of things. And they're getting articles written about them that assassinate their character. They're getting delegitimized in the eyes of the average viewer on TV. It's wrong. And it shouldn't be like pulling teeth to get people to see, at least be told an opinion without them flipping out and saying that this is that is Islamophobic or racist, and then they just completely move on with their complacent lives. All I can say is wake up, you know, do the research for yourself. Go on YouTube. We have an unlimited amount of tools now to use in this day and age. We are very lucky, I think, that we have YouTube and that we have the internet in general. It's a cesspool, the internet, but if you learn how to sift through it, you can find a lot of gold, and you can find a lot of information that's going to inform you better than what these lackeys and these shills on TV are doing right now. So I suggest you don't take their word for it and do the research for your own. And and that's the end of this video here. I just wanted to show you a little snippet of the interview because it's in 4 parts. But seriously, do not forget about these situations. Don't forget this is the response that the media is having to people. They'll even say, even when it comes to something like this, they'll say, "Oh yeah, it's obviously Islamophobia. Obviously, there's a concerted problem that is institutionally supported and funded and there's indoctrination going systematically for people to become Islamophobic. It's not happening. It's just a bunch of independent journalists that are concerned about the security of their nation. Why can't you admit that? Well, we know why. It's because you're worried about image. You're worried about getting the law beat down on you, even though you would just be being honest. And we're not going to be able to get people, even within the Muslim community itself, to do more unless there's more voices and more encouragement and more people sitting up against the fear of hate speech and the fear of being labeled something that frankly, like for me, like I'll wear the labels all day and night if it means protecting our republics and our democracies, and I want Muslims to be able to practice their religion in peace on their own. I don't want them to have to get ran over by psychopaths in cars. Nor do I want our kids who are going to concerts getting their limbs blown off by people who are committing suicide attacks. And we have to acknowledge these problems on both sides. I am willing to tell you that for a fact that there are people that are Islamophobic and that are tapped in the head. But it's not always Islamophobia, though. That guy could have just been tapped in. He could have just been so hysterical and crazy and irrational to the point where he would go and do something this abysmal. And it is sad. And honestly, my opinion remains the same. We need to talk about these issues honestly, and we need to stop being hypocrites. We're so quick to go out and blame somebody based on the color of their skin, even like because he was a white British national and an Islamophobic. That equals Islamophobic, and that equals everyone else who stands up and says it's happening because of this is also an Islamophobe. Completely ridiculous. And the fact that they suggest on national TV that Tommy Robinson is trying to say that they deserved that those innocent congregants deserved to be killed. That the fact that they say that Tommy Robinson is suggesting that is just ridiculous, and they're simply allowing all this to go over their heads, or they're purposely not paying attention to it because they have an agenda. It could be one of the two. I'm not so sure sometimes. So, I don't know. All I can say is do this research on your own, as I usually always say, and don't take my word for it, you know? Thank you for listening to Free Discourse Radio. That's the end of the video, and I hope you come back soon. Thank you.